Every Sunday, the Reverend Creflo Dollar packs him in under the World Dome, his 8,500-seat church outside Atlanta. The pews are filled, and so are the donation plates.
The Word of God is the gateway to the world of wealth.
The man whose last name literally means money in the United States often suggests to his 30,000 parishioners the more they give, the more God will deliver financial blessings to them.
Which is basically the Christian gospel turned on its head, turned upside down. And it's to honor Creflo Dollar and not so much about honoring God.
Despite his critics, Dollar's popularity and wealth have continued to grow, and all that revenue is tax exempt, with little or no way to know how much he has or how he spends it.
What that means, it sounds technical, but what that means is as a church, he doesn't have to give financial information to anybody, and so therefore he doesn't.
But there are ways to get a glimpse of some of that wealth. From where else? The heavens. This is a satellite view of Dollar's Georgia home, worth more than $2.3 million. These New York records show Dollar and his wife sold their Manhattan condo for $3.75 million. And that's not all.
Bentleys, Rolls Royces, corporate jets, $23,000 commodes.
In 2007, the lavish spending even caught the attention of the U.S. Senate.
Just think of a $23,000 marble commode. A lot of money going down the toilet.
The Senate Finance Committee launched an investigation into the financial practices of Dollar and 5 other televangelists, saying it was so taxpayers, quote, should be assured that their donations are being used for the tax-exempt purposes of the organizations, unquote. All of the televangelists objected. But by piecing together what little information the Senate committee did have, it concluded in 2006 World Changers Church, which has numerous branches, received $69 million in contributions in Atlanta alone. Speaking to CNN in 2007, Dollar denied using church money for personal gain.
It's a miscalculated assumption that those things were purchased with the church's money. I've purchased over 100 cars for people in my congregation. Homes for people in the congregation.
In 2010, the Senate committee eventually gave up on any regulatory changes. And now, 5 years later, Dollar is looking to fly higher than ever.
You know, I'm about to start going in on these pastors because they're every bit as responsible for the black community being in shambles than, your local drug dealer, Because what they do is they allow these black women to escape accountability for stuff. These pastors tell these women that they can go around and sleep their 20s away, sleeping with dudes, then become a born-again Christian and somehow be this new woman, this better version of herself. Like she's not used up anymore because she gave her life over to Christ, which basically gives a woman a pass to escape accountability for anything. Two things you can't do. You can't critique a black woman and you can't critique a black pastor. Because you can't critique the black pastor without critiquing the black woman, because that's his biggest supporter. You notice how in these churches, the pastor has got a little bit of a pimp element to himself. And, a lot of the deacons in the church, they try and be like that pastor. Sleeping with the woman, sleeping with the woman's mother, the woman's sister, in some cases, the woman's brother. I mean, it's we all know about what Eddie Long was involved in. We had Creflo Dollar here taking dollars from people so he can buy a jet. What does a pastor need a jet for? Seriously. And then, in Delaware, in Wilmington, there's this guy named Pastor D. His name's Derek Johnson. He spent time in jail. He's in his mid-50s now. And he's got some girl in his congregation pregnant. But ain't nobody, he's still presiding over that church. And, he's still walking around Wilmington shaking hands and police marches and all that other type stuff. But he's a real cancer, man. I don't like that dude. Plus, my uncle was a pastor of a church. He was my father's sister's husband. Yeah, that's who he was. So he wasn't a blood relative of mine, but still, he was my uncle. And he left my aunt for a member of his congregation. That was the first thing he did wrong. Then the second time he cheated on his wife with a church member. It was a 13-year-old church member. He ended up doing 12 years for that. He's dead now, but he spent a good portion of his life in prison because, being a pimp and having sexual exploits while being a pastor. So I wouldn't want to be no pastor, to be honest with you. Number one is I don't have no pimp in me to be up there lying, conning women into giving me what I wanted them to do. Maybe that's why I didn't get a lot of pussy, because I didn't know how to tell lies. Being with anywhere from 120 to 150 women, but I still didn't get as much as I was supposed to get because I didn't know how to play the game. I didn't know female nature, and I was too much of a simp. But still, I don't have enough pimp in me to be lying to these women so I get what I want. That's what I did when I was 16 to 21, and I noticed once I stopped lying to girls, I didn't get them as frequent. But I'm getting off topic here. That black pastor needs to be done away with, as much black churches need to be done away with. No man that's a man would sit there and listen to what they preach in these churches. And you ever think that the pastor wants to keep these women single so that they continue to give to him? Because if I get married to a woman, which won't happen because I'm not getting married with her, say if I was, naive enough to get married and the girl that I was married to was giving a lot of money in tithes to the church. No, we got to use this money for other shit. So I would be keeping my wife from going to church. If you're going to be with me and I'm going to lead, I'm not going to lead you into that church. I'm going to lead you away from that church. We ain't going to church. We just ain't going. And then also, that'll break up marriages too. Because my mother and father weren't as close as they should have been, because when they didn't get along, my mom spent a lot of time at church. And it kind of got between my mother and father. My father was complaining that my mother should have been home doing stuff, domesticated stuff, but instead she was at church. So the church causes a lot of problems. That's why I don't go.